All right, this is like trial number 999 of trying to get some video of me making a weapon. Uh, right now, I'm testing out some metal that I scrounged to find out if it's any good. The spark tests seem to go pretty good. If my initial project works out where it hardens and can take an edge, then I'm planning on making some cane swords. Yeah, I know cane swords aren't legal, aren't practical, but everybody wants one, so I figure I'll give it a shot. I'll show you the steel here in a little bit, but basically what it is found steel that I'm gonna be working on. So I'm gonna get going grinding on it, and I'm gonna turn on some music. As soon as I get going, I'm gonna fast forward everything, but we'll see what we see. So try to find it. It's hard to get a good angle. Let me turn the music off. It's kind of hard to get a good angle on it, but you can probably see how it's concave along the edges. I have to do this one still, but it's coming along. Now, I'm gonna be really disappointed if it doesn't take a harden. But I'm not gonna film the whole process of me grinding on it. I'm gonna get going on that last side, get it ground. Then once that's ground, I'm gonna shape what will be the portion for the handle. Planning on making a cross guard, a wooden handle, and a pommel. If it turns out this is gonna be a gift for a friend of mine, so hopefully it does. Once I get the initial grinds done, I'll do some more videoing of me doing the initial polish grind, which is just a much higher grit on the grinder, and get rid of all the scratch marks so that it looks shiny once it's all finished. So I'm gonna move on. As I mentioned earlier in the video, although this is the first part that I'm filming, this here is the sheet of steel that I cut out. It took me a full day to cut it out because unfortunately my metal bandsaw decided to eat itself. The belt slipped off behind the pulley wheel and it chewed itself up pretty bad. So with a Sawzall and my angle grinder, I cut this. It's approximately 48 inches long, and I cut out about an inch right there. And then I chopped this piece off. I'm hoping that everything works out well with it, but I don't know till I get to the hardening stage. Right now, I'm maybe 50% done with the grinding on it, the initial grinding. So we're gonna go on from there. Got done with the initial grinds, did a real quick grind on the lower grit or higher grit, excuse me. And I'm gonna grab another belt and do another grind on the edges. And once I get those done, I need to come in and I need to square off this handle area just a little bit. I plan on squaring the shoulders here, and so I can put a guard on there. So far it looks like pretty good. I'm having a little trouble with this type of grind. This is the most complicated grind I've ever done. It's basically putting furrows in. Some people call them blood grooves. They have nothing to do with letting blood, guys. I'm sorry. That is a old wives' tale. It has zero to do with letting blood. What it does is it creates more surface area while reducing weight. So more surface area, it's a little bit stronger in the direction of force, and less weight. You can swing it longer. That's really all there is to it. But these are furrows that go into, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, that go into the edge. So as I'm doing one, I'm over grinding the other, so it's making it a little bit wonky. It's actually narrower here than it is here, which isn't ideal, but for the type of blade this is, that actually kind of works out. I got lucky with that. You figure armor piercing, if it's thicker here, boom, it punctures a hole and then it gets thinner, so it's easier to insert. Little graphic there, hey, haha. But that's what it is. So let me get some music going and get a higher grit belt, and we'll get going. This is a fresh belt, so it should cut cleaner and quicker. So hopefully I won't be grinding for too long. Once I get that done, then square off the handle, and it should be ready for a heat treat, which I'll probably do tomorrow. All right, so got the initial grinds done. For those of you who didn't listen to me before, this isn't a tutorial. Hold on. These aren't tutorial. They're more for those people who come to my booths and so forth at martial arts events, and I've been doing some gun shows as well, and they do the same thing. Who makes all these? And I tell them, well, me. And they look at me like I'm lying. It does piss me off. People don't understand that there are people out there who actually make stuff. I'm one of them. Little background is I'm a martial artist, been a martial artist since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I got fed up with the standard martial arts equipment that you could buy, the bow, the nunchaka, even though I hate nunchaka, um, so forth. I would break them constantly. They were worthless. So I started making my own. And then I got into doing canes via a good friend of mine who is a cane instructor who taught me. And then it just blossomed from there. I also don't do your standard stuff. Some people, they just make the same things over and over and over again, and they're great at it. They're awesome at it. If I'm looking for something that they make, I'm going to them because they do a really awesome job. I, however, will take it to the next stage. I figure if I'm going to use a weapon, be it for demo purposes, be it something I carry, whatnot, I want it to look nice. I want it to look attractive, not this, here's a big hunk of wood that I'm going to hit you with unga. So I make intricate canes with dragon heads, wolf heads, snake heads, those type of things, are with inlays and all this other stuff. Because if you're going to carry it, you might as well be proud of it. Okay, that's that. I'm going to grab another belt. This one's going to be for removing a lot of material all at once for this handle area. I'm just going to rough grind it, and then I need to come in with an angle grinder and square off the area that will be the guard. I'm still debating on what I'm going to do with that because this is more experiment than anything. But I'll tell you right now, just what I've done on the video, I've taken this, I've more than halved the weight. This is so much lighter right now. Before I was like, oh man, this thing's going to be a boat anchor. And then I got the grinding on it, and like I said earlier, those furrows, I took out a ton of material, and I've made it so it has more surface area, so it's not going to flex as much. It's not perfectly straight. This is the first time I've done this type of blade. It's a triangular blade with concave or furrowed sides. It's still very hot, so I'm barely touching it. And once all that's done, and I get the squared off and all that, we'll heat treat it and go from there. If it heat treats, great. I have probably 200 pounds worth of steel right here, as I showed you earlier. So I'm gonna pause this, and I don't know if I'm gonna video the next step. So, so you can see I'm still listening to music. It's squared off here. I rounded it here just to make my life a little easier. What I'm gonna do is heat treat it, and then I'm gonna make a wax cast of the guard. That way it will fit on perfectly and only in one direction. and I'll probably do the same for the pommel. That way it's nice and uniform. Hopefully I can get that to work. We'll see. All right, so I got to heat treat it. I'm going to check it to see what the Rockwell is on this, or as close to. All I got is files. And then I'm going to heat treat and see if it took a hard. And if it does, great. Then we can temper it, polish it, and start working on the guard and pommel, grip, all that fun stuff. All right, take care. Okay, so good news. It took heat treat, and I've been working on getting rid of the deeper scratches. Let's see if you can see this. So that's the side I haven't touched yet, versus although it's got fingerprints all over it, this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on this, do a little videoing of it. I've already got two sides down on the 1200 grit, and I'm gonna do this side. I have over an hour just in the 1200 grit on these two sides, so I'm not gonna video the whole process because that would be really boring even at super speed. Well, that was exhilarating. As you go up in grit, you tend to be causing the edges to become sharper, and as you're polishing, you're getting closer and closer to the edge, and every now and then it'll catch. And thankfully this wasn't as dramatic as it could have been. I've had these things explode in my face. That's one of the reasons I don't like these belts so much, but they're great for getting a small polish on them. So I'm going to grab another one. I think I'm going to go up this is actually a 2000 grit. Now, for those who are watching this, let me say that again. So for those who are watching this, what I have here is a Grizzly belt sander, and I got an attachment, so I have the platen further away, and I got some extra wheels to grind on. That's what I'm using for this, is the wheels to get into that concave area. So let's see how this goes. Yeah, that didn't work at all, so I'm gonna do old school, and I'm just gonna go by hand. And do this. So you can see now I gotta go through with some hand cleaner and so forth to get all the gunk off of it. So that's the blade basically done. I just gonna get some cleaner and get all the compound off of it. There's a little bit of polishing compound. I would have liked to have taken it up a little bit more on the grits, but that's, I have one more 2000 grit, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get in on it without it eating itself again. So a couple of things. Now you notice it's a lot thicker up here than it is down here. That was not intentional, but it's still quasi-traditional. And the other thing, I like to disclose everything. There's a small twist right here that is not really throwing anything off, but it does concern me because that means that I wasn't holding it steady as I was grinding. I probably could have ground a little bit more right here, and it would have pushed that center line a little bit more to straight and also made this area a little bit thinner. But I am digging it. It'd be a nice armor piercer. Now I thought about casting some aluminum for a guard and a pommel, and I'm deciding, or I've decided not to go that route, more for the fact that it would add a lot of weight to this, and although this is going to be a fully functioning weapon, it's meant to be a wall hanger. I'm going to make a display for it and all that. So what I'm probably going to do is use some casting resin and take the molds that I have. I'm going to grab those right now. So these are actually had some Evil Ted's molds. He's a cosplay guy. He makes incredible cosplay outfits, and he has these molds that you can pick up at like Michael's or something. And I cast this dragon head out of wax, and that's going to be the cross guard. And then a skull, two-sided, and that's going to be the pommel. And then I'm going to sculpt some clay or something to be in between it to make up the actual grip. And then take a molding of the blade with these on it and cast it with some resin. I'm thinking I might go with like a black, or I might get adventurous and see if I can't get some, do these in black and this in red or something out there, and then the handle and so forth. So that's my next step, is to get these set up on the blade, make a clay or maybe even another piece of wax for the handle, and shape it to close to final form. I want some excess. That's why if you look, there's some extra around the skull and around the horns and so forth. So that way, once it's cast, I can go in there and grind it smooth, and I'm not getting into the actual detail of it. And once that's done, then I got to make the display rack. Yeah. So I wanted to shoot a quick portion of this so you can see. I recast the parts that will be the handle and the hand guard, the plaster of Paris, and now I'm going to take a mold using this stuff. You melt it down and pour it, and you can reuse it as many times as you want. You lose a little bit after each time. So I'm going to melt that down, pour it over here, and it's going to take 2 to 3 days for it to fully cure. It hardens within about an hour after you pour it, but it really takes its actual hardening 2 days or so before you can actually cast in it. Otherwise, it doesn't have enough rigidity to do any heavy casting. So I'm going to throw that chunk of molding material on the oven and then pour it. If hopefully I have enough, and once I get to that point, I think I'll try to video that. All right, here we go. So there's that stuff. It's bubbling. I'm probably going to have to do 2 pours, but I figured I'd get this one on video while the getting was good. You're going to have to excuse the shop. I'm still cleaning. See, that last little clump needs to boil down, but the other stuff will still be somewhat liquidy when I pour it, so it'll make a nice good joint. And once it completely solidifies and I can remove it from its mold casing, I will video some more. So here it is. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off of it. but I've finished pouring. I didn't quite have enough, so I put some wood blocks in there to take up some space and help fill it. You can see there's a little bit of gap there, so it's actually not touching the handle portion. It's going to take a while for this to cool down, and like I said, it takes a day or so to fully harden to the point where you could use it to cast, but it's going to seep into all the little nooks and crannies, and once it's fully hardened, I can pull the sides off and remove the knife and take the plaster of Paris blank off, and then put the blade back in and pour. I'm going to use tabletop epoxy resin. You've seen the cool tabletops where they put live wood edges in, and then they put colored resin in there. That stuff is very hard and can take a little bit of an impact. This isn't designed to be used regularly, but I want it to be able to be used if need be. So let's see what it comes of it. So I forgot to film most of this part. I pulled everything out, and now I've reconstructed the box and mixed some epoxy, and right now I'm slowly pouring it in to this. It's at a slight angle, so everything drains down here. As you can see, it's starting to pull there. Yes, it looks like a mess, but if everything turns out right, it's gonna be awesome. So there's that, and I'm gonna finish pouring this, and once it cures, I will video me trimming the excess off and painting it. So got it out of the mold. Did pretty good. I'm gonna just clean up some of the edges. There's some, can you see that? Some bubbles that happen, so I'm gonna round that off. I think it adds a little character, so I'm not gonna fix it. I did do a little fixing here. There was a huge bubble right here, and I went ahead and recast it. So this is a little bit softer right now. In a couple of days, it'll get just as hard as the rest of this. But as soon as I get that done and clean off the fuzz, see all that white stuff, I will put a paint job on it, and the blade will be done. I'm gonna make a mount for it. This is, as I've said, not meant to be used all the time. It can be used. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent so much time on the blade. But it's meant to actually hang on the wall. So here I go. All right. So probably edited that out, but so I trimmed off all the seam areas, and I rounded any hot spots. For those of you who have watched Forged in Fire or any of that other stuff, a hot spot is a spot where your hand, your fingers are going to rub, and it's going to scratch up, cut into, cause a blister, whatever, as you're using the sword, knife, whatever. Now, with this being a decorative handle, a lot of this would be considered a hot spot. So it's basically, what I did is anything that was feeling sharp or rough on my grip. Now, the pommel area still has a few, and I'm leaving that just for character. But where my hand falls on this for use, and slightly behind and slightly in front of, I round it off. So next is to go through and brush and wash off all this dust that has come on here and let it dry, and then we paint. So I went ahead and painted it, and I didn't feel that anybody was gonna want to watch me sitting here painting for however long it took me. But there she be. Needs a little dusting. The reason it needs dusting is I made a display rack for it, and the display rack is basically a cross, because my friend who this is for collects crosses. Goes in there like that, and there's a couple of neodymium magnets back here that I embedded in here, so it holds the blade, keeps it from rattling. You know, I think it turned out pretty well. I'll be sending this off to him as soon as I can get it boxed up and out. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll give it one more look-see at it. As I said, it needs to be cleaned up. It's a pretty badass little sticker, and unlike most triple blades like this, the edges are pretty damn sharp, so I'm having to be extra careful with it. These were primarily meant for thrusting into whatever you wanted to, but I like things sharp. I often get told that the blades I make are too sharp, which I just have a problem with that particular mindset. There's no such thing as too sharp. It's only too sharp if you cut yourself. Okay, so there she be. Let's see if I can get and that's right there. Yeah, I know skulls and crosses may not be your typical, but that's me. All right, so hopefully I'll be able to post this pretty soon, and I'm going to also be trying to get some more video of martial arts techniques. I haven't been able to because the last couple of weeks I have been bouncing from seminar to seminar, as well as I caught the whole plague that's going around, and I just didn't feel like videoing anything. I still worked. Part of the grinding time on this, I was sick and had the fever. I never stopped working. My wife loves to torture me with the whole you never stop working bit, but that's how it is. If you like this video, please like. I don't know how often I'm going to be posting. I'm going to try to get more things going on this channel, both the Armory side as well as the Martial Arts Academy side. let me know what you want to see, and I'll do my best to show it. Take care. Bye.